Hello, Neville. Jonathan, Bryony, Josh, Mahesh, and myself, Amay, are going to talk to you today about population control. And the question we're going to answer today is population control needed to establish a sustainable future for our planet? So population control is defined as the alteration of the rate of growth for a certain species. As a major international development strategy, population control is a relatively recent phenomenon. However, it is practiced in many aspects of life within the animal kingdom and has done so for centuries. In many ecosystems and environments, zoologists, biologists, and even farmers limit the size of a certain species so that they remain manageable, as well as to protect the natural balance of nature. For humans, population control ranges from certain measures taken such as contraception, abstinence, and sterilizations, to more drastic actions taken as abortion. Since 1979, the government of the People's Republic of China has implemented the one-child policy, a severe form of population control in the ever-expanding nation. It has put a restriction on urban couples, allowing them to conceive only one child. In many religions, the use of contraceptives is treated as a sin and abstinence is preached. The Catholic Church, for example, condones the use of contraception, saying that sexual intercourse is the nature of humans and contraception is a deliberate violation of God. Is population control needed to establish a sustainable future? Our group has decided to answer thoroughly and in depth with three arguments. They are the effects on a large population on resources, reasons against population control, and the reasons for population control. We have each expanded on these topics further.
Alongside the increasing problem of overpopulation, you have what is called the overconsumption of natural resources, which is seen by many as one of the significant threats for the environment. Looking back in the past 2 centuries, we can now debate that humans' activity has radically changed the Earth's climate and natural resources. The main factors are usually related to the increasing economy and population our society has had over the years. Although large population is usually seen as an obstacle to sustainable environment, studies show that sustainability is rather more affected by the overexploitation and consumption of scarce resources. According to the Living Planet report in 2012, with the increasing world population every year and the pace that humans are consuming right now, by the year 2030, humans will need the equivalent of 2 planet Earth in order to meet the needs. This means that with our current lifestyle, by 2030, predictions state that there will be a 50% increase in human consumption of natural resources, including production of harmful waste for the environment. However, population growth is still seen as an important factor of environment depletion, as with consumption deteriorate environment, high population will exert more pressure on resources until carrying capacity is reached. Fast economic growth with low population countries, such as Australia, have one of the highest environmental pollution and carbon dioxide emissions per capita in the world. On the other hand, you have China, which doesn't have such a high environmental pollution per capita, but due to such a large population, has the highest pollution and carbon dioxide emissions in the world. With society running on fossil fuels as the main resource, it is important to note that once consumed, it cannot be reused, as it is a finite resource which will lead to scarcity at one point. With population growth, this could result in a decline on accessibility and quality of resource, which may cause environmental harm and social impacts for future generations.
The problem. Overpopulation of the Earth means a lower standard of living for every human and animal on this planet. Overpopulation is a relatively new problem facing humanity and could become the greatest hurdle in human advancement in the coming future as natural resources and food supplies begin to run low while consumption and pollution increase due to overpopulation. Our group looked at 3 potential solutions. Solution 1 is the increase of healthcare in developing countries. There is a direct correlation between overpopulation and high child mortality rates. Infant mortality rates are highest in developing countries due to poor living conditions and lack of basic needs. The consequence of high child mortality rate is a high birth rate. Arguments have been made that successful population control is only possible if child mortality rates are kept low. Otherwise, families have more children than they want because many of their offspring die. Solution 2 is one-child policy. The most famous example of population control implemented by the People's Republic of China. The Chinese policy restricts couples to only one child per family with various exceptions. These exceptions include having twins, ethnic minorities, rural couples, and couples who are from only child families themselves. Unauthorized births are punished by fines. It is predicted that the policy has prevented 400 million births since its implication. Family planning. Probably the most successful solution in terms of efficiency and intrusiveness, or lack of intrusiveness. Iran managed to reduce its birth rate in recent years using a family planning system. Before a couple can obtain a marriage license, they must take a family planning and contraceptives course. This educates the couple on how to use various contraceptives and the benefits of smaller families. The scheme has worked, as the United Nations has stated that the Iranian population control method has decreased births the most of any other country. The system does not restrict the family to a single child, but rather prevents the alternatives, and it's up to the family to choose what they want most. It asks questions of the family which otherwise would not ever come up in conversation. It is these questions that all new families should be asked to enable a better future for them and the earth.
Despite the facts and research that support the idea of population control, there are always those which have opinions otherwise. These reasons against population control are backed up particularly with ethical outlooks. To be ethical means to consider human rights. This is essentially the basic needs, freedom, and dignity that all persons deserve. Population control is a violation of human rights as it denies the choice and free will that humans have in the flourishing and prosperity of life. The Church itself opposes several methods of population or birth control, such as contraception and abortion, which are argued to destroy human life and its full potential. In this way, population control appears to be rather unethical. Population control is also considered to be simply illogical in several ways. Research shown from the International Database, as conducted by the US Census Bureau, suggests that although population is growing, the rate of population growth itself has been on the decline. The rate of population growth peaked at 2% annually in the 1960s, but has since then steadily fallen. Given this, it is predicted that the population growth will decline to 0.5% by 2050. Hence, ideally, there is no need for further population control. Doing so now would risk unnecessary population decline. Too much decline in a population has unwanted consequences to the economy and reduces living standards of societies. Some believe population control is mistakenly seen as a solution to global issues. For example, it was once considered to aid in resolving climate change, where basically less people mean less greenhouse gas emissions for human activity. In fact, the likely cause of climate change are not humans themselves, but rather the results of endless economic growth and industrialization of societies, in which there is mass burning of fossil fuels. Hence, the reduction of population wouldn't actually solve anything in this case. Similarly, population control itself is argued not to be the most efficient solution to stabilizing population growth. Rather, there are several other issues which relate to population growth that could be addressed. For example, statistics from the UNDSA suggest most global population growth results from within third world countries. If efforts were focused on aiding third world countries, it would not only help achieve social justice, but accordingly lower birth rates in these countries. Therefore, it may be more beneficial to focus on other issues to stabilize the population. The main argument here is that it's not fair to say the mere existence of a population is the cause of all these problems and issues. Perhaps it is simply the actions and distribution of these populations which need to be addressed more firmly.
Over the course of this presentation, it can be seen why population control is a topic of much needed debate. It commands this level of attention not only on the basis of controversial opinions that it raises, but also due to the fact that it has an important role to play in terms of propagating our species into the future. When we commenced our project, the majority of the opinion was that population control in its current form should be dissolved. However, as we delved deeper, we realized the justification behind the ideology. This is because population control allows for many improvements to our species and as a direct result on its future survival. These benefits range from providing better economic stability and equality in the short term, while ensuring better access to resources and healthcare in the long term. Nevertheless, the justifications led us to have very conflicted opinions, as it can be very inhumane to consider enforcing population control in its current form on humanity. Take the example of China, which has a one-child policy in force. This, in our opinion, makes the scenario much worse by encouraging selective infanticide and other horrific outcomes. As citizens of the 21st century, we face a constant dilemma when it comes to considering such situations. This is because what we decide today may go a long way to making or breaking the human species. In the end, we decided that population control is simply too large to ignore, just because of its possible detrimental outcomes. This forced us to come up with a more novel idea for population control, an idea that would not only make it possible, but also avoid most of its negatives such as its ethicality, etc. Our idea is based on our earlier findings, in which we increasingly saw that population rates around the world decline automatically when the population develops an awareness of the negatives associated with it. It also seems to decrease with better healthcare and access to resources. Hence, we believe that the population control is in fact necessary, but not in its outright form, but rather as a subliminal or underlying ideology as a result of increased targeted awareness on the issues of overpopulation and its negative outcomes.